Hello everyone, my name is Patty Plant and thank you for joining me. In real life, I'm Patricia Hanbidge, renowned horticulturist, and been working in the industry for, well, a long time. So every Wednesday you can catch me at Orchid Hort at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time for Grow Live. And what's wonderful if you tune in to Grow Live is you can ask me questions and I can answer your questions in real time. Also, check out my newly formed YouTube channel, Grow, where I will be keeping the videos that I do for Grow Live and other videos that are all about growing and many other things that will help you live more sustainably and happier especially in these times that we're in right now. So anyway, thanks for joining me. Today we are going to talk about growing some vegetables that grow fast so you can have an early harvest. Good idea, eh? It's almost spring here in Saskatchewan, and oh my goodness, after last year when in the beginning of April our crocuses were blooming, it's great that soon the snow will be gone and we can be outside gardening in every day. However, even though it's still cold outside, we can get things growing. And, when you think about growing vegetables, one of the first things that comes to mind is growing onion sets. So these are yellow onions. And interestingly enough, if you want to grow onions, you can grow them from seed or you can grow them more quickly from onion sets. And in a very short period of time, you will have green onions for the table. And if you leave them to grow a little bit longer, then of course they'll size up into the great onions that we use all year long for cooking and other things. So I also brought along some scallions. So these are the white onions that I don't know if you've ever made pickles, and oh my goodness, look at this little bit of green. So if you want instant growth, look at that little devil. He's already growing. Put him in the soil and he'll just be happy, happy, happy. So if you're thinking of growing vegetables for a quick harvest so we can supplement our food in these trying times or any time, I want to just reach out and talk a little bit about how these wonderful little things grow. So this is an onion set. At the base of it, you see the little brown kind of discolored part. That's where the root tissue will grow. And as you can already see with this onion set, it is already growing the shoot or the upwards part of the plant. So over the last few weeks, we've talked about a lot of things, and we've talked about everything that plants need to grow. And so I want to touch on that again, just because it's so important when you're growing plants to understand what they need so you can do a great job of making sure you give them everything they need so they can do everything they need to do for you. So 5 things plants need: light, warmth, moisture, water, and nutrition. Interestingly enough, those 5 things we also need as humans. So plants and us are really not that different. So let's talk more about getting things growing. If you live where I live, it's still kind of winter even though it's technically spring. So we have to grow things indoors. It's too cold outside, the ground is still frozen. So in order to supply what all these things need, whether it's seed or onion sets or whatever it is you're going to grow, you need to have some media. Soilless media is best for inside, and once we get outside, then amending your soil and making it of good health and good friability is the best thing you can do. So let's just talk about the plants a little bit more now. So we talked about the onion sets growing very, very quickly, almost instantaneously. And if you plant some sets, or scallions as the white onions are called, probably within a couple of weeks, you could be enjoying some smaller green onions. And if you let them grow a little bit longer, then of course, they'll size up and become a little healthier. And if you leave them even a little bit longer, then you'll see that bulb of the onion will start to form. Also, you can buy multiplier onions, which is basically the same kind of bulb, but it actually grows a number of green onions within this wonderful little thing. So let's talk about bulbs because we're going to also talk about seeds. And bulbs are kind of interesting because they're magical. Inside a bulb, whether it's a tulip bulb or an onion bulb or whatever it is, inside this bulb, if you dissected it, you would find an entire little plant just waiting to grow. And if you think of how big a seed is and how big an onion set is, there's a lot of difference. So there's a lot of food value here that allows the plant to grow quickly as long as it's got moisture and light and somewhere to anchor itself, the soil, because the nutrition is in the bulb, and of course warmth. So because my indoor grow spaces are all we have right now to grow in, and I have lots of supplemental lights, as you can see I'm kind of standing in a jungle, then happy growing, away we go. If you don't have all the facilities, we did talk about growing sprouts, and that's almost instantaneous. Within 2 to 3 to 4 days, you've got some healthy, nutritious green stuff to enjoy. So, if you want instant veggies to eat, then you have got to do sprouts or in turn microgreens. And, I was talking to my sister today, and she's couldn't get out to go to the store because she lives in an area that is harder hit from COVID than where I am. And she sprouted a whole bunch of her black oil sunflower seeds and is going to grow them up because she just wanted to get growing. So, you don't need a lot of things to get things growing, but if you are growing for production, then you do need those 5 things in appropriate amounts in order to grow food for your table. So let's talk about seeds. So here I've got some seed packets. We've got a lettuce leaf mix. We've got arugula, and of course some other seeds as well. So if you look at any of the lettuce greens, spinach, those kind of things, they're going to grow quite quickly. And on the back of the seed packet is some information. So here is a prize head lettuce. So on the back of this seed packet, it says, 7 to 14 days to germinate. So if you recall when we talked before, germination is that magical process that starts with the addition of water to a viable seed. So the seed we did talk about before has a seed coat, and then inside the seed is the endosperm, which is the food for the tiny little seed that is growing, and of course the germ, which is the life or the alive part of the seed. So in this prize head lettuce, and I got it from Early's, better turn it the right way up, this lettuce, because it grows into a head, is going to take a little bit longer to grow. But there's nothing wrong with consuming these vegetables before they are at their biggest size. So the same as the onion sets, you can eat them as green onions or you can eat them as the full-sized onion later in the time. But since we're talking about growing vegetables that grow quickly so we can harvest them early and give us food for our table, it's important to kind of think about these things. So lettuce, it says 7 to 14 days to germinate. Now, under ideal conditions, you can speed that up. So those 5 things we talked about that plants need, if you can supply them at the optimal level for the seed, and each plant is different, of course, then you can actually get things to grow faster. So I planted some lettuce just the other day, and it was probably about 3 days ago, and it's already springing through the soil. So, if you have nice warmth and good conditions, then it will be easier for your seeds to get growing even sooner. So lettuce, endive, arugula, all those greens are fast to grow, germinate quite quickly if it's warm enough and the conditions are right, and you don't let them dry out, because if you recall, we talked about that germination process as being extremely important to supply the things the plant needs at the right time. So one of the most important things when you're getting these seeds growing is to not let them dry out. Also good not to drown them, but definitely don't let them dry out, because that whole process of germination and growth will then stop and you have to start over. So we want to be successful. So just keeping in mind a few of the things that plants need, it's important to supply those appropriately. And now that we're home a little bit more than we normally might be, we have more time to do some of the more basic things of life, like grow food. So you've got all your lettuce greens, you've got bok choy and all the other choys that are Chinese vegetables that are so great, not only raw but stir fried as well. So you've got those you can grow. If you look at spinach, spinach is great raw, cooked, in everything, good supply of iron. And you know, sometimes we're maybe challenged a little bit by the size of seeds and how to plant them properly. So in another video that we shared, we talked about planting the seed to the diameter of the seed as far as depth goes. So when you look at a big onion bulb, it can get planted right down under the soil, and it's got lots of energy to get up. If you're looking at tiny, tiny little lettuce seeds, you've got a different situation. So I don't know if you can see those tiny, tiny, tiny little seeds. I've probably got 150 in my hand here. So, you know, those seeds need to be planted very shallowly. So unfortunately, when you're germinating seed, and that water is the most important thing, if your seeds are sitting on top of the soil, they're at risk of drying out. So gently just push them into the soil. And when you're watering them, use a light mist or a watering can with a diffuser on it or a spray bottle, and gently spritz them to make sure that they stay nice and moist. Another trick that we talked about last week when we were talking about starting seeds is to cover your seed tray with a clear plastic dome, or alternatively with some plastic wrap, just to keep that moisture in. Now, once the seedlings start growing, it's important to remove that and get them light so that they grow sturdy and healthily, and can provide you with food. So if we talk about all the greens we can grow, that's kind of cool. And there's also the lowly radish. So what I've got here is actually a seed tape that's embedded with radish seeds. So the radish seeds are a little bit larger than the lettuce, but sometimes we get confused and sometimes we plant things too close together. So using a seed tape is another alternative. And to plant a seed tape is very easy. Here, it actually comes apart in two. The radish seeds are embedded. You lay it in your media or your soil in the garden, and basically just cover it with soil to ensure that the tape that the seeds are embedded in will be kept in good contact with the soil, which means good contact with the water that begins life. So, lots of different types of radishes. They take no time at all to grow. You've got the long Asian radishes that are white in color. You've got red radishes. You've got mini carrots. Mini carrots are very easy to grow, and because they are a smaller vegetable, you can harvest them more quickly. Alternatively, if you don't have any mini carrots and you just have some carrot seed kicking around, you can plant that. And sometimes when you plant carrots, they're a small, tiny little seed and you plant them quite dense. Well, basically, just thin them out and you can eat those carrots before they're mature, but they are still of size enough to provide you with good nutrition and, you know, a beautiful supplement to your diet. So we've got lots of different things we can grow in a very short period of time, from your onion sets that are ready in days or weeks, depending on how much green is on them. You've got your lettuces and your Asian greens that can be ready in less than 20 days, less than 3 weeks. And if you want to push it a little bit further, you can grow some things like Swiss chard and beets and okra and things that are still harvested quite quickly, within about a month to a month and a half. So 30 to 60 days, and you've got lots of things to grace your table. So depending on where you live and how long your growing season is, there's some good options for you to harvest those veggies that will supplement your diet quickly. But let's not forget about the rest of the growing season. In this case, where I live in Saskatchewan, we've got about 100 frost-free days. So things like tomatoes and eggplant and hot season crops that need a little bit longer to mature have to be started inside. So, as far as quick vegetables, basically salad galore, guys. And there's so many different kinds of greens that your palate will be titillated by the different flavors and textures for a good long period of time. So, if anybody who's watching has any questions, certainly pop them up there and I'll cover them before I close off. But do remember that every Wednesday at 1 p.m. you can join me for Grow Live, and you can check out the videos if they aren't still on at Orchid Hort Facebook page. Then you can find them on my YouTube channel, Grow. So, I hope that I've helped you a little bit in choosing some vegetables that you can start growing right now that are going to give you satisfaction by gracing your table in the very near future. Unfortunately, our growing season here isn't long enough to just plant tomatoes out in the garden. So those ones we have to start indoors and then bed them out so that they are sized up and ready to grow. And if you join me next week, we'll talk about transplanting then, because if you are like me and you're growing a lot of things, then you know what? It's not time to put them outside, and it's likely going to be another month before they can go outside. So we're supplying everything that they need in the indoor grow spaces. So thank you for joining me. I hope that I've helped you to understand a little bit more about growing some veggies that are quick to harvest so you can grace your table with food. And thank you. See you next week. And in the meantime, check out the YouTube channel Grow as well. So thanks for joining me. Bye now.